Jeff Watt. He was, I met him originally when he was working at Formworks, and then the next thing doing is helping me evaluate companies within the portfolio. He evaluated Neurocentrx as a leader of this. Now he's a CEO, and take it away, Jeff.
Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm here to talk about Neurocentrx. We're a clinical stage biotech seeking funds to approve a safe ketamine prescription for severe depression with home treatment potential.
Don't press it too much.
Yeah, I think we're doing that. Yeah. How about it? Perfect. Great. We'll get into details later, but we're seeking Series A funding towards a drug approval. Again, we're phase 2 and phase 3 clinical funding. So we have a ketamine capsule reformulation and a digital health solution that's going into basically mid and advanced stage clinical trials. The opportunity to remind everyone, after all other antidepressants fail, people often end up in clinical psychiatry units or in the care of clinical psychiatrists. So this is severe depression after other treatments have failed, and there's few treatments. One of the only existing treatments for this treatment-resistant depression is a nasal spray form of ketamine that was approved in 2019. It's in use a lot in the US. It's a blockbuster market. So basically tens, hundreds of thousands of patients take nasal ketamine in America. And there are emerging agents that suggest the market is up to a few billion in potential, so hundreds of thousands of patients. But these folks need to come to clinic for care. So what there isn't in the market right now is a home care solution. That's what we're developing. We think with a safe ketamine formulation and a prescription application, we can achieve home dosing. Again, this is an expansion of the market, but it meets the patients where they are. That's a key clinical need. The technology that we developed is basically guided by our founders who worked at King's College, who have been doing this for years safely inside the NHA. So for years, out of, I would say, compassionate need or kind of a little bit of desperation, they've given patients oral ketamine forms from compound pharmacies inside of NHS hospitals. They do it carefully. They start them in the clinic. They achieve a clinical response and then issue these, again, compound pharmacy oral forms of ketamine for home-based care. That works inside the NHS, where you can do a patient follow-up, you can leave them in the care of a community care nurse. We want to recreate that with a safe formulation and a safe prescription option, which is going to be with a digital application that takes care of the patient contact that currently doctors in NHS do. This is that diagram of what our care pathway looks like. So again, we have a patented formulation. This is an abuse-deterrent capsule. So it's a gel formulation of ketamine in an oral capsule. That's necessary if you're ever going to treat somebody in a home setting. We would offer that in clinic for the first 2 weeks of care, and then safely at that time, after our doctors basically get a clinical safety baseline, they would offer a limited amount of that ketamine agent for home care. We don't lose the continuity of care, though, because we would have a prescription app that would go with the patient home and takes care of all the safety monitoring requirements that are currently done. So patients that are treated with ketamine in an IV clinic or an esketamine clinic are monitored for sedation, mental disturbances, so visual disturbances, dissociation, and some of their blood pressure. We think we can do all those in a remote care setting with a prescription grade app. So this would be the first, basically the only FDA approved prescription application that would go with a ketamine home with the patient. This is the IP that we bring to it. Again, it's a proprietary formulation. We think it's one of the few or only that are abuse deterrent, but immediate release. We think that's essential for efficacy, actually. So we know IV ketamine works. That was kind of the proof of concept that was achieved decades ago. This nasal spray form works. So again, a quick release of ketamine is necessary for efficacy. We achieve that with our capsule, but also it's abuse deterrent. We're working with, and we've just announced, or just about to announce, a collaboration with Click Therapeutics, who are kind of specialists in the area of digital therapeutics, but the kind of FDA-regulated prescription care apps that we want to develop. So we're doing that in a collaborative effort with them that we'll announce soon. What we're seeking is enough funds to basically approve the product. So this is a 5-year plan, about 4 years out of clinical studies, phase 2 and phase 3 studies to validate the safety of our clinical care pathway. So we'd achieve basically a clinical proof of concept. We do highlight that it's a very low biologic risk. This is a form of ketamine that gives IV-like exposures. So we would have basically a bioequivalence-like claim. We expect efficacy at the dose levels that we have. And our prior clinical data validates that it gets the exposures that we want with this plan. We're also seeking funds because it's so de-risked to go into and through phase 3. So we think we want to basically catch up with the market. There are emerging competitors that are psychedelics that are in the market, but we want to basically run a fast, aggressive clinical program to reach market at a time when those other agents are coming in. We've been funded to date by a lot of great seed investors, including with 2H for years, and as well the Wellcome Trust. So they funded our phase 1 a few years ago, our most recent phase 2 funding, and our first trial in bipolar depression. So again, a lot of times people with bipolar suffer from episodes of depression that are also treatment resistant, very refractory. We know those patients, and our doctors at King's have shown that they could be treated successfully with ketamine. So we want to kind of replicate that with a formal clinical study, which is ongoing and starting later this year. Oops, I'm going to build here. Here's some updates in the past few months. So we've just gotten our final phase 1 data out of our abuse-deterrent capsule, validates our dose plan, validates the drug exposures, and our safety management plan for our phase 2 studies. We're just about to announce our quick collaboration. So they'll make this software enhanced prescription application with us in phase 2 and phase 3. And some of our patents have been granted out to 2039, and we're pending in the US and Europe. Pretty much there. Some of the team members, so to get the funding and to also expand some of the clinical expertise, we've expanded our team over to the US. So a US chair who's worked in CNS pain therapeutics. A lot of great psychiatrists, including experts in digital mental health products. And our team is expanding with, we have an ex-FDA commissioner who's supporting some of our policy outreach. And yeah, it's pretty much the team. Clinical advisors are great, includes a couple of folks on the board, but basically the specialists in ketamine care. So we've talked to folks who've been in advanced clinical psychiatry for decades. They say, this product solution, if approved, meets the patients in an important way. We're really glad to have all their support. That's pretty much us. So again, highly de-risked opportunity. We kind of just need funds to do trials that are highly validated. There's an approval pathway that's precedented. We'll get our FDA behind a deal in the next few months. And really, we're just focused on scaling up the company for a drug approval. So that's us.
Thank you, Jeff. First question is really around sort of the FDA. How will they view, what's your, for your discussion with them, maybe you had a pre-discussion of how they view ketamine being approved for severely depressed patients, etc.
I mean, there's individual policy leaders that have kind of articulated the level of need. So, the current FDA psychiatry is really engaged with all the psychedelics manufacturers and developers. So there'll be an approval probably for psilocybin in the next year or two. There's FDA has a position on that. They had a position on MDMA, which kind of failed its trials. But I think, the thing is they've approved an agent that's got widespread use. It's highly validated for esketamine. They know there's a huge gap. So we think about 1 out of 10 patients who are eligible for esketamine ever receive it. And this is that clinical barrier. So you've got to come to clinic for drug safety. That's fine. The FDA will require that. And we're not taking any shortcuts. Our view is an approval that FDA would support. We'll get a readout on that the next month.
Having that FDA person in your advisory is.
Yeah, Peter runs a policy outfit, so our view is he wouldn't have gotten involved if he didn't think it was precedent and possible and basically appropriate. Not brand, but kind of the ethics of the company is we're just the safe guys.
From an investor's point of view, you're raising a lot of money.
Yeah.
Is there a smaller plan where you raise a bit and sell it?
Yeah, sure.
Just like interest.
The milestones
typical Jeff American style.
No. The milestones in phase 2 can be a phase 2 or an A or a B. So you can kind of get stuff done with 20 or 50. The 100 is because we think it's so de-risked. Once you have those, you don't want to refinance right now. The companies are out ahead with psychedelics. They're doing this 100 million. So we really don't want to just get a phase 2 and then reload for more money to go do a phase 3. That's an internal milestone.
Anyone else? Great work getting the Wellcome Trust on board, by the way.
Yeah. Sure. Just a question on, obviously ketamine's been around for a long time. What is your view on sort of market share versus, particularly on negative? So given that you've got this digital platform, how does that sort of protect against generic?
Yeah, so we think the app can be generic proof. So the validation that it works as intended and the intended safe use. That's our data that we'll generate. It'll be a one-time only thing. You can't just come in with a generic equivalent of software that's specific to the medication, and that's ours. So that's pretty proprietary and a good moat. The thing about positioning, and I would say other agents, ketamine is 60,000 a year. It's probably why it bounced back all the time and reaches only 1 out of 10 patients. The psychedelics manufacturers will charge probably the same for 2 doses a year, maybe 4 or 6 doses a year. We think there's a continuity of care issue. A person with a home prescription and an application they need to follow up on. That's a market profile that's competitive. Even if you got to come in for a blow your mind on a psychedelic, there's a place for a person to get steady at-home care with an oral dose. That's always been there in the market. That's what people are used to doing. The new model coming into clinic and getting a high complexity treatment works fine, but not for everybody.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.